Hello, thanks for tuning in. My name is Zach. I'm a lifelong reader and lover of science fiction, fantasy, comics, manga, personal development, and everything in between. And today I'm giving my review and thoughts having just finished Leviathan Wakes, the first book of the Expanse series. So this is the book that I had been meaning to read for a while. It's one of those books that are always on the top 10 list, best sci-fi books. And being in kind of a sci-fi mood at the moment, I had put this on my Libby holds ages upon ages ago. It finally came through, so I, of course, just added it to the queue and got into it. And it's something that I really enjoyed. It definitely made my top 10 list of the year. And yeah, it was just such a great book. So to give a little bit of extra context, I had watched a couple episodes of The Expanse back during the pandemic. So I'd seen a couple of the first season, not much more than that. So I didn't really know the whole story of what I was getting into and just never got back to The Expanse, even though I did enjoy it. So I, gave the book a shot, and yeah, it met all my needs. Just a great story, but a lot of differences from the show. So just to talk about that briefly, the TV show has kind of three perspectives, whereas in the book you only have two. So in the book you're only given the perspectives of Holden and Miller, and the book kind of bounces back between Miller, Holden, and they eventually kind of meet and intertwine, and then you get kind of each scene from both points of view, which was really interesting from a writing, and storytelling perspective, to kind of be in the same room with the characters and then seeing the same events from the other person's perspective. It really gave me a lot of appreciation and love for both characters. They became instant favorites. Instant, I guess maybe that's the wrong word to say. But throughout the novel, by the end of the novel, I was, I guess, better way to phrase it, huge fans of both of them. But in the TV show, you're also given the kind of third perspective, which is the whole UN Earth-based perspective of what they're doing in this kind of galactic conflict. Whereas in the book, it's just Miller and Holden. So I think the writing style really was better for it, without muddying the water with a third perspective and a third plot line to figure out. I guess from a TV show, you need to kind of show the additional context. If you're not like a reader who's really invested in learning the world and getting into the world and is finishing, you're kind of trying to appeal to a mass audience. So bringing in the Earth, I guess, is going to be more appealing to everyone to give kind of a grounded nuance to what is happening. Whereas in the book, yeah, you're just kind of like understanding that there's a conflict between Earth and Mars, and the Belt being this like third party intermediary that's between the war and, the oppression and all this other stuff that's happening to the Belters. It's just really interesting dynamics of kind of the three groups of the story, and then how each of them represents part of that, and then their perspectives on it. So Holden is, I loved Holden. He's that kind of flawed leader because he's just thrust into the situation, right? He just assumes command of the Tachi / Rocinante. And as he becomes the leader, he kind of reluctantly assumes the position. So he's that flawed character where he's not a leader. He sort of wants to be the leader, and he just rises to the challenge. So he just does things the best he can while kind of living the kind of values that he holds. So he was just such an endearing and great character. And then alternatively, you have Miller, who is this flawed kind of tragic sob story. So I guess I didn't really like Miller at the beginning because he was just like, everything bad happens to Miller. He's just such a bad guy. Like, you can tell, he's drinking, he's drunk half the time. And then he's kind of just stumbling around. He gets these like visions of Julie as he's kind of figuring out this murder mystery. And why do we even care about Miller? He's just like this bumbling cop, But then you kind of again learn about his character, that he's flawed for a reason. He has kind of a bit of a tragic backstory, that he was a cop and then he kind of washes out. He gets left from the mission. Then he does pick himself back up and he kind of redeemed himself. So his arc of like being this like kind of corrupt cop, which I guess is everyone's corrupt in the Belt, then as he's taking bribes, but then he just totally reaches rock bottom. And then you see himself kind of slowly pull himself out as he gets wrapped into, he gets fixated on Julie and figuring out what happened to Julie now. And yeah, so I by the end of it, Miller definitely became one of my favorite characters. He's such a great character as well. And I think having that full arc of kind of highs to lows and just redemption arc was a great choice in the story. And I really loved both Holden and Miller for they had just different reasons. And that dual perspectives as you see the conflicts from both sides was really interesting. I mean, obviously the big conflict was towards the end where they shoot Dresden and Miller just makes that decision. And it was, it's something that had to happen. And he's that kind of anti-hero at that point. And yeah, I just loved the character. It just felt so real when Miller makes that decision at the end. Yeah, loved the character for that. And then the ending, just because I guess I recently finished it, but it wraps up so well. My favorite moment, obviously there's a bunch of stuff that happens early in the novel when the two sides are apart and then they intertwine and they kind of butt heads and go through the things together, and we get drawn into this Mars Earth conflict and the belt. But the ending as the protomolecule, we figure out what the protomolecule is. Yeah, Aero Station, after the raid, after Dresden dies, when they're trying to figure out what to do about the protomolecule, and they say, okay, let's take the Navarro, which is that generation ship that they're launching, and let's use it as a battering ram. And then I'm listening to this part, and if you've read it, if you've seen this, I don't know if it's in the show because I didn't get that far, but yeah, when Aero Station dodges the generation ship and they're like, what happened? I was like speechless. It was such a great moment in the book. Yeah, I love that the protomolecule is kind of alive and it's controlling the station. And, it turns out to be kind of, it's adapting to a consciousness. So yeah, it was just such a great ending, and it does resolve nicely. Miller totally gets redeemed at the end. His kind of final sacrifice was just amazing. That's also probably why I love him so much. That final ending with Miller was just awesome. And it leaves the world so far open that, what's going to happen next, that yes, we're not alone in the universe. Well, obviously we've colonized Mars and Earth and the belt, but now there's this X factor of the protomolecule and who sent the molecule, why they sent the molecule. I guess as also a fan of the Alien series, so the black goo from Prometheus and the engineers, where it's kind of designed to start life on Earth, as we saw in the movie Prometheus. That had, the cool vibes of the protomolecule. So it's in there. I, had, I guess, a anchoring point in my mind of, oh, this is kind of like the black goo, that it's meant to rewrite life and create life. But as we see in the novel, it kind of goes astray because it was intended for single-celled organisms, and then when it kind of starts interacting with complex life forms, that's when everything goes crazy and it just goes insane. And it's just really interesting, the fact that Julie kind of comes back, quote unquote, at the end. Just, really great story. And the writing, the fact that the world is really, it's science fiction for sure. It's in space. They're flying around with spaceships, but it's also very realistic. That the battles are, they're when the Rocinante is kind of finding a firing solution. It's not like you see in the movies where the two ships are right on top of each other. It's, I guess, kind of like you'd expect in space, that they're actually really far away. Things in space are really far away, and they're trying to launch torpedoes way far out. But by the time it gets there, the Rosinates, they're going to be maneuvering and getting, out of the way. So it's, and I guess the big thing is also when they break the ships, because obviously the acceleration, the G-force, it's not like we see in Star Trek that, physics, you can't just launch something at light speed and expect no shift in mass and effect on the people in the ships. So the fact that they take it so seriously and they show the effects and talk about the effects of, their eye sockets getting, or their organs getting rearranged as they are subjected to these high G forces when the ships are doing maneuvers. It just felt like such a lived in world that I can just imagine myself in the world of the Expanse on the Rocinante or on these space stations. And just so gritty. And seeing that, having seen a couple episodes of the series, it's that gritty, real, this is probably what space is going to be like in the future. It's not going to be this the clean Star Trek version of space. It's going to be more like Star Wars, where it's a lived-in universe, that things are dirty, things are messy, that yeah, we made it off planet, off the gravity wells, we're in space, but things aren't rosy. And the Belters are the ones, that are the marginalized people. They're the ones doing the dirty work that have to support the Earth and Mars, in order to live and survive in these harsh climates in space. So it's just really interesting writings about the cultures of what is developing in space. That whole conflict of Earth and Mars also gave me vibes of like the Gundam series and the multiple ways that they show in Gundam, kind of Earth versus Xeon, which are like the people that have gone to space versus people stuck on Earth. So that kind of dichotomy of old versus new, or in like even like Dune, like the old empires versus the new empires, the people that are gone. I guess I'm talking more about later Dune and like the spreading books 5 and 6, but yeah, just really interesting. I just love the play of the three factions, Earth and Mars and Belt. And again, the characters, Miller and Holden, amazing characters, and all the crew of the Rocinante was great. I loved the whole crew. You really felt for them. And yeah, this is a series that I am also looking forward to reading more in. This was just book 1, Leviathan Wakes, but it was a great start to the series. Really great writing. I know they have recently released another, the same author, or pair of authors have released another one, Mercy of the Gods. So I do want to kind of check that out, but I do want to make my way through the Expanse and more in this world. So if I had to get a number, this was an easy 5 out of 5 novel for me. Leviathan Wakes was amazing. It's everything I want in the gritty space opera, science fiction set in space. Just realistic, lovable characters, and really interesting world in space. So do check out if you've never read it. I finally gave it a shot and absolutely loved it. So do check out Leviathan Wakes, the first book of the Expanse. 5 out of 5, easy read for me. So thanks for watching and have a great day.